Another month down, another Q&A. Another month down. I don't know why. Where are we going? Why are we counting down the months? I don't know. Another Q&A video, another existential crisis at the start of the video. These videos are where I take your questions and talk about stuff I wouldn't cover normally in other videos. Just touch on some good fun topics, get to know me a little more. I get these questions specifically from the previous Q&A video. So the way this works is if you have questions for me, something you'd want me to talk about, a topic I'd hit in the next video, just drop it in this comment section here. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. This is a good one. New me, new haircut. I apologize. I was going for like a Nathan Drake type of thing. It didn't work. So my regularly scheduled haircut will return soon. Thank you for your patience. The first question is from Wampins, who asks, what is a game that has a perfect progression system to you? Or at the very least, what game has your favorite progression system? So progression system that we build that essentially as games with leveling up or the progression or increase of a character or, you know, something like that. Starting simple and addictive, SteamWorld Dig and Dead Cells come to mind big time. Dead Cells, of course, is like a run-based game, but it has permanent progression, like with unlocking weapons and new areas that you can encounter randomly on your runs. So it's like the more you play and the more you do runs and the more you succeed, the better the game gets, more shows up, there's more to do, and I really, really like that. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is also a good one that comes to mind randomly for me in terms of like abilities that you gain consistently throughout the game. All of them are consistently useful and serve a satisfying purpose. Not just like a purpose where it's like, I got the green key card and now I can go unlock the green doors. Are they actually satisfying with the way they slot in with everything? And I like that. I like just kind of feeling cooler and more capable as things go on. That for me is really the progression system stuff, more than just numbers and stats being satisfying to go up. But that being said, Fable, I'm going to show my ass here, of course. Fable, I love the way Fable progresses. I love dumping points that you earn from actually doing things out into the world, dumping them into pools to level you up, and then see that and feel that progress with your character actually physically changing, as well as just getting better at swords or bows and arrows and stuff like that. Stardew Valley is also a good one, you know, that Harvest Moon style thing, but like just getting better at farming, better tools, better capabilities, the progression of time in that game, the way that moves with things I really like. And then Mad Max is another one. I know I've talked about this game a lot here on the channel, but I just really like dumping into getting gear. It's very satisfying. It's very rewarding. You notice a difference when you get that gear. All of it's actually meaningful and you're not getting new shit every 5 minutes. And then you're also upgrading all those base camps. That's another thing I like with progression, where when you put the work in, places will physically change. You know, like building out some of your outposts in the Division or, you know, stuff like that. NM Backpacks 1824 says, what's your thought on art books for games? I love them. I can't get enough of them, actually. I do find myself like wishing I had more time to just sit there and ponder and go through them all, but I do collect a lot of them. One of my favorites more recently is the one for God of War 2018. A lot of good shit in there, but I'm running out of book space, basically. When you live in a small place, you can only fit so many books on a small bookshelf, but I love video game books in general. I love tangible things about video game. Maybe one day I'll do like a bookshelf tour, just specifically with the video game stuff. I got some cool gems in there. Lewis Craig from Patreon, shout out to him, says, the rumors we've had about Sony down forecasting the PSVR 2. Do you think this could be the beginning of the end of this VR resurgence, and maybe it'll come back in 5 to 10 years? I don't know for sure. I think some of that forecasting stuff was actually disproven. Regardless, I don't think that matters. I think I have noticed a little bit less interest this time around with PlayStation VR 2. Game Ranks here, we're still actually debating whether or not to do a video on it, just because it doesn't seem like people are like losing their minds over this thing. That being said, I like some of the lineup. I think there's some interesting things on there. I really want to try the Horizon VR game. That looks pretty cool. It takes a lot of elements I like from other VR games. That being said, I like with the doubt behind Sony with this, I think, and I hate to say it, I think some people aren't going to want to hear this, but I think as of right now, the ball is in Meta's court. I never want the ball to be in Zuckerberg's court, really, but they have the most units out there. It is the most accessible VR platform. The Quest has done wonders for getting VR in more people's hands, whether you like Facebook or not. And I think, like, as a layman, from their position, they have the cash to really, really go for it. Where Sony, I feel like, still ultimately is playing it a little bit safer with this stuff. Meta still has the opportunity to continue to just go crazy. And I think ultimately with like what Lewis was suggesting, where interest is dying down and maybe it'll come back in 5 or 10 years, I don't know if it'll completely disappear, but I think it all hinges on innovation. I think it still needs to have big leaps in quality all the time for it to really keep that train going and keep that interest going. I mean, PlayStation VR 2 is innovating. I mean, it has improved. The first PlayStation VR, you had to plug 1 million cables in. Now it's one connection. Things are getting better. And no offense to like Sony fans or anything, I just like don't know if Sony necessarily is going to push VR further. I thought they were, because obviously PlayStation consoles, 1 million people have PlayStations, right? And PlayStation VR's sales numbers weren't bad by any means, but I just think the power like of Quest and Meta just seems like a safer bet. Again, that's just me going by feel. I'm not backing this up with like sales figures or math or anything like that. That's just how I've been feeling. And I am somebody who literally had the DK1. I had the HTC Vive. That was my favorite for a while, actually. And now I use the Quest, and I tried the Quest Pro. So I've touched them all. I appreciate them all. That's just where I'm at. Cooper Rowe asks, I hear you mention the Tony Hawk games now and again. Curious to know what your favorite level from the recent remaster is, as well as your favorite level of all time. Hoping we get another Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remaster in the future. I hope so. I'm not holding my breath, but favorite level, that's hard. New York is a good one, just for like the bits. Like the jokes with the cab drivers and everything like that. I'm boring. I like School 2. I like Hangar, but I really like Mall. I really like the downhill jam levels, but the Mall one specifically, it's just really fun to combo through. And I like kind of having, it's almost like that endless runner type of thing where you finish the end and you just keep going again. I just love that. I don't need massive linear open levels for a Tony Hawk game. No, I could have like 4 feet by 4 feet. If it just keeps me going and comboing, I'm all in. Chris Jacobson asks, think Hogwarts Legacy is Game of the Year, or will it be overshadowed by Fallen Order and or Starfield? I think it's way too early to make any of those types of calls. I think that it's fun to get like rose-colored glasses or be excited about a certain game, but like, you know, things might dry up. People might change their opinion a little bit over time. Another game may come out that we don't see coming that just blows the conversation out of the water. And in terms of Game of the Year, are we talking like what's going to be my Game of the Year, or like the perceived Game of the Year by the Game Awards, or like what outlets are choosing? I have no idea. I don't really put too much stock into it. I do think Hogwarts is going to have legs for sure. I mean, a ton of people are playing it, but I kind of look ahead and don't bet on like one. Like, I'm not looking at like, oh, maybe Starfield's going to be the big one. Like, I'm just like here for the ride, dude. I'm waiting for that weird one to come out, that surprise drop or something like that, which we have been having more recently with Hi-Fi Rush. There are still some games slated for this year that don't have a release date, so we're gonna have to wait and see. Let's do some constructive feedback here. Kalb Dome Rex, hopefully I got your name right, sorry if I didn't, says, longtime fan, why don't you guys on Game Ranks ever talk about For Honor, or even over here on your personal channel? Simple answer, I don't play it. The thing is with games like that, which For Honor, some of you may not have thought about since it released, but that game continues to go. It's got a community, it's got a player base, it gets updated all the time. So for this person to ask about For Honor, it's not out of left field. People are still enjoying it. The problem is that me as a person, or even media outlets, only have so much bandwidth, and that's an ongoing game. You'll notice I also don't continue to talk about The Division 2 or Rainbow Six Siege, games I've dipped my toes into and, made a video or talked about here and there, but I don't have time to revisit. So I respect that Ubisoft has really stuck with For Honor. I think people should really actually take a second look at it because they've added some crazy shit to it, but that's the honest reality when you don't hear us talk about stuff like that. What I will say is that for stuff like this, for games like this, there are great content creators out there that focus solely around one game. I would say seek those out. Those are the guys you want talking about the weekly update to For Honor or whatever. I am not that guy just because I haven't been playing it. Thank you though. Wanted an opportunity to just say, I think For Honor's good. Just wanted to put that out there. Oh my God, Bunnel Block 3 says, will we ever get another Blasto game? Nobody ever talks about it. One of my favorite childhood games. It wouldn't be a Q&A video, a Jake Q&A video without getting nostalgic and talking about some old weird game. Blasto for PlayStation 1 was extremely tight. The character was voiced by Phil Hartman. So Unfortunately, Phil Hartman passed, the comedian, so I don't think we would get another Blasto game because I don't think you could do it without him. Reading corny, rated teen one-liners was just fantastic. It was a weird, fucked up game. The PS1 was rough. It was very hard. The controls were unforgiving, but Phil Hartman's grab a mop, there's going to be guts on the ceiling. Like, there's so many great lines from that game that I still remember to this day.
Can't do math. What? You can't even remember.
You're right. Yeah, I literally have to Google the most basic math problem. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can remember one-liners from Phil Hartman from a PlayStation 1 video game that released in 1998. Wow. Blasto was based on a lot of like classic sci-fi archetypes, and so was Zap Brannigan, but Zap Brannigan kind of like feels to me like a good offshoot of Blasto. Like, I like him because I remember playing Blasto. But anyway, Futurama stuff aside. Next, Danny V6655 asks, I think we're about the same age, 30. I was wondering if you've ever thought about gaming in your 30s, especially if you and your wife are planning on or have kids. Kids stuff aside, just being older, I for the longest time, let's get deep. Yeah, for the longest time, I was very much like, oh, how the fuck do you not have time? Like, you can find time to play video games, right? Like, it's just like, come on, it's not that big of a deal. Especially for me, considering my job involves video games, I think it shows that still, damn, you really got to find time to make video games as you get older. It started to really hit me at 30 and just being really busy with like work and life and family and all that shit. Damn, like you really have to make time for stuff. And for me, it's been about that, realizing that instead of just trying to squeeze it in or make it work, like you actually kind of have to like set some time aside. You have to like start, I don't want to say scheduling it, but like you have to be like, okay, that's when I play games, you know, where it used to always just kind of be like, I just play games all day. It's all good, whatever. Like, it took me a while. It took me, like, it slapped me in the face and I was like, damn, I'm not playing as many games as I used to, or as much as I think I still could. So I had to figure out how. And it was like kind of low-key scheduling. It's weird just because it snuck up on me. I didn't think it would be a thing. Even like job aside, again, the fact that I still kind of was like, oh, wow, when do I play the games I want to play? Yeah, it's something you got to work on. It's like a pursuit. And Fan of Gaming 8403 asks, do you think it's possible for someone to be late to gaming? Or alternatively, as a gamer who only started playing around 2017, would you say that I started gaming so late that I couldn't enjoy games anymore, especially with our weird industry? Okay, so the way this question is framed is like, I assume you're coming at it like the fact that, you know, gaming has a lot of monetization, it has unfinished game, like all the problems we bitch about all the time, rightfully so, makes it harder to get into gaming. I think that is absolutely not the case. I know people that started playing video games like last week. It's really because there's so much more to it, not to get all like hippy dippy everybody, but you know, there are people still getting into gaming all the time. They're getting into it through stuff like Fortnite or whatever, and you might hear that and you might go, blech. I have a cousin who got into gaming through Fortnite and crap like that. Not crap, Fortnite's cool, but really it's a gateway drug. I welcome it with open arms because that cousin of mine who she found Fortnite eventually was curious about other video games. You can't only play Fortnite. I mean, some kids can only play Fortnite, but like there is more out there. And I think that whether you started a long time ago or if you started new, you can still get into gaming. Obviously, I am a pro video game person. I root for them. I hope for the best. But what I will say, like, I'm almost like jealous because if you get into gaming now, there's so much stuff you can go back and experience. Even if you get into gaming now and like you can say like, oh, you know, with our weird industry, things aren't that great. They can get into gaming now and go back if they wanted to. There is so much stuff. And I wish I could experience some old games for the first time, man. I think that's how I was getting your question. That's where I'm at. That's just me. So yeah. Hey, now before we keep going, just want to give a big thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. Now, Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. They've been feeding me. They've been giving me the nummy nums. Can I say that? Should I say that? Now, you guys probably know me. I always look really tired, and it's definitely another busy season for work, and Factor really takes the pressure off things. Not having to worry about some meals has been ace. Factor meals show up just like that, and they're fresh, nutritious, most importantly, they taste good, and I can just heat them up in the microwave in minutes. This way, I'm not losing time shopping for groceries or doing meal prep stuff. I'm just good to go. Everything is taken care of. My 2023 goals, I'm trying to work harder, spend less on fast food, and this is working out pretty good. They got a bunch of stuff. They offer keto, calorie smart, chef's choice, vegan and veggie options. And this includes seafood, meat, and plant-based meals. So there's a bunch of choices to eat right and feel good. So you want to check it out? Head to factor75.com or click the link in the description down here. And when you're there, use code ONJAKE50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Factor75.com. Go ahead to that. Remember, code ONJAKE50. And big thanks to Factor for sponsoring my videos. Ooh, Savage Game 567 says, how long until we see AI-generated games? And would you play or review AAA AI-generated games? I've been thinking about AI a lot. I'm not super into AI-generated art. It looks cool, but I just like stuff made by real people, made by hand. I just appreciate that stuff more. The technology is absolutely fascinating, though. I've been loving that. And with AI-generated games, oh, and also I want to link a video from Tom Scott that's really good about AI. And the title is very fear-mongery, but it's not scary. It's just a very interesting take. It's a boring video, but it's good. I'll link that. But yeah, man, AAA AI-generated games, I think they will be a thing. I mean, AI-generated stuff is already writing articles. It's already like writing screenplays. They're not being made into movies yet, but like people are doing wild shit with this stuff, and it has progressed very quickly, and I expect it to do so more. And it's a money thing at the end of the day. It's like anything else where it's just people will go for it. People aren't going to sit around and debate like, well, but like what about real artists? When shit is just getting done, I think most people just charge forward, whether it's business people or the average consumer that just doesn't think too deeply into things. With video games in particular, like we've already had artificial intelligence doing things. I mean, we've had procedurally generated woods that we've walked through in many, many video games, and none of us batted an eye. But yeah, AI generated game, I don't know. I think games take so much. It's going to be a minute before we see that. But like they're doing little things here and there that I think are creative and interesting, like Mountain Blade 2. There's like a thing now where you can actually speak to NPCs, and it's kind of like a chat GPT, whatever it's called, type of thing. So overall, like a robot generated game is not something I really want. It's something I would be fascinated with, and I would probably take a look at. But that was a really good question. Thank you for that. Maybe we could do a whole video on that. That's a good one. I got to write that down. Oh, and just an update here. This is from user Ajink Yakanazode890. I'm sorry, I totally butchered that, but I just wanted to share this. They said, hey Jake, months ago I asked how could I convince my parents to get me a PS5 in one of these Q&A videos. You guys probably remember that one if you've been watching for a minute. He says, I showed them your response and they thought it was really funny and agreed after a bit more nagging from me. PS5 became somewhat available last month here in India, and I've got one now, so thanks. Yeah, I just want a round of applause. Enjoy your PS5. I'm glad my advice actually worked. I just wanted to show you guys. See, I'm useful. Straight Edge 316 Rules says, hey Jake, love the video of Retro Tech. Do you have plans to do it again, or would love to do something with Marquez? Yeah, did 2 videos now with Marquez Brownlee. That was a lot of fun. Possibly, definitely might be something in the future. I can't like totally comment, but like there have been conversations. Wild Atlantic Play 7906 says, hello there, Jake. Have you ever seen the Lighthouse film? And if so, what did you think of it? The Lighthouse is absolutely crazy. It's like a horror movie with like a drinking movie, and it's just this fucking wild descent into madness. I really like movies like that. I also just really love the visual style. I'm like all about that stuff. I also really like Robert Eggers. The Witch, or the Vavitch, if you want to, is incredible. Absolutely amazing historical piece. You can call it a horror movie, but I really like everything else around it, the craft of it. And then Northman was tight. I don't think I ever went on record about the Northman. Northman's just like a good hero's journey adventure that ends in a wild place. If you like Vikings or Assassin's Creed Valhalla or anything like that, you do yourself a favor and see it. Barrett Walker 5752 says, do you have a before you buy you'd like to remake? Mostly because you didn't have enough time to really get involved with the game, or because the game was better or worse than it actually was. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So before you buys, very tight deadline. Most of the time, I gun through the game and give you a full thing, but I say it at the opening spiel that sometimes it's first impressions. Sometimes we're getting the game the same time as you, so it's really just kind of a way of getting some information out for you, the consumer, so you know what's up. And for me, I think really it was Ghost of Tsushima that I would want to redo. I'd want to redo a lot of games as a service ones just because like a lot of them got better, of course. That's a different thing, but like Ghost of Tsushima ended up being like one of my favorite games that you released, and putting out the before you buy, I was like in a bad mood. I was under like a really tight deadline, and a lot of it just seemed kind of like more open world stuff to me. And I didn't say the game was bad. I said it was like pretty all right. But like now if I made the video, I would have just gushed about the whole thing, because like once I like really 100%, that's like one of the few games in recent years I like really did every single inch of the game, like all the collectibles and stuff. I really fell in love with it. Also, I recorded the footage and the HDR was all fucked up. I'm like super not professional sometimes. I screw up. We put our videos out quick. You know, we're just real people screwing up sometimes. I would have recaptured some footage, definitely. Ooh, let's get local for a second. Evil King Gumby says, I was curious where down on Long Island has a solid gaming scenes. You know, arcades used in new game shops galore, events and stuff like that. I was born and lived on the island and now am in upstate New York. I'd love some tips when I go visit family down there. Yeah, so I live in New York. I live on Long Island. It's like the offshoot island past the city. And yeah, there is a decent amount of stuff. So the Smith Haven Mall now has like an arcade again, which is insane. Like you go and it's kind of like you pay $20 and you just like stay there all day and play shit. But they have all different types of machines, pinball, new and old, which is pretty dope. In Patchogue, they are opening up a pinball like place right on Main Street, which is really cool. I'm talking mostly Suffolk here. Then there's gaming stores are still going strong. We have a lot of mom and pops that are pretty good. East End Gaming in Oakdale is doing really well. They keep expanding, which is pretty crazy. You don't really see that with mom and pop shops around here. But also, it's worth pointing out the Long Island Retro Game Convention is really good. That's at the Cradle of Aviation Museum every year, and it's gotten better and better. They invite really good speakers. They had Frank Cifaldi of the Video Game History Foundation a couple years ago. They invite a lot of YouTubers and stuff. Like I think like Bob Wolf was there. Like they don't invite me or anything. That's okay. I'm not mad. That's fine. But yeah, there's a lot. Long Island actually has a good amount of video game stuff, and I'm not even talking about like the fighting game scene or anything like that. I don't really know that world, but there's some stuff. ASAP Bruh 3437 says, do you own any arcade one-up cabinets? I've got the Simpsons one. That's tight. You have the Simpsons one. I really want that one. So I have a Pac-Man one that a family member gave me as a gift. Very grateful for it. Don't love Pac-Man. It's too hard. I'm not good at it. I've never been good at Pac-Man. The artificial intelligence is too good, if you could even call it that. But I also own, it's right over there, I have the X-Men one. I loved this game growing up. So this was like the one arcade one-up I really jumped on. And I still haven't put it together. I bought it when it released. It's been sitting in the box. We were going to put it up and like set it up. I just haven't had time to put it together. I suck. I know. But that X-Men game is awesome. Highly recommend it. It's the one where you can play as Colossus and go, "Ah!" It's the best. Really, arcade one-ups, like they are good, accessible ways to get stuff, but I want the real shit. I don't have room, but I would love to buy a Crazy Taxi actual machine, like steering wheel, whole 9 yards. That's the dream. That's when I feel like I've made it. Nitro Dubs 9137 says, if EA Motive decides to continue with Dead Space, do you think they should take it in a new direction for the third entry or stop after the second? I've been thinking a lot about this whole like revisionist thing. It's interesting. A lot of people are talking about the Last of Us TV show with season 2. A lot of people are like, maybe they're gonna change the story. I have no idea, and I really wonder like with stuff like this, man, with Dead Space 3, like, are they gonna change the story? I don't know. Like it's crazy because it's like they dumped so much money into it. People worked on it, but I would like to see what else they could do, you know? I'm curious to see if they're going to keep going because Motive is like busy on other stuff now, but they figured it out. Obviously, I went on record. I put out my video. I really like the Dead Space remake. I'd love for Dead Space 2 for them to make it scarier. Dead Space 2 is really good, but make it scarier. I don't know. And then 3, yeah, good luck. I don't know. I've actually in recent years talked to some people that didn't hate 3, and that's cool. Good for them. I think they could tweak things, make it scarier. I don't know. That's a tall order. That's a really hard question. Eyeballwall0228 says, you're in charge of the next MCU Spider-Man trilogy. Where would you take the character from here? So for the Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Mans, I like them. That's not how I would have made. I mean, who am I? That's not how I would have made him. I don't make movies, but like that's not the approach I totally would have taken. I like some of the things here and there, but if I were to make the next trilogy, like now he's starting off, like he's got his apartment, he's got the real suit, I would go back to basics. These last movies were fucking insane-o weird shit. Focus on Spider-Man doing his spider thing and put him to work. Make him go to work. Make him an intern at a science lab. Make him work for the Daily Bugle. That has a lot of room to do some of the stuff that they like to do with the previous movies, the whole school, kid, student dynamic type of thing that made them a little different. They could do that again with the workplace. This could be a Peter Parker, the youngest kid working at the Daily Bugle, or the youngest science intern. The only other thing I would say is like set up a stronger villain, a longer term villain that carries over past one movie. You know, I would really like to see Peter really get hurt and really deal with a villain in a more compelling way. Not saying that they didn't do a good job with the previous movies, but I would just like something a little longer, you know? And just embrace the New York thing. Like they really had it pretty well in Homecoming. Like there was some really cool stuff there with him in Queens. Like stuff that to me, I was like, oh, okay. They really kind of get this and we haven't really seen it like this before. Go back to that, embrace some of that stuff. After that, they were so quick to get Spider-Man and put him everywhere else. Give me more of that stuff. I want to see Spider-Man order a chopped cheese. But speaking of delicious food, I think that's a good way to wrap this up. Like I said, drop some questions for me for the next video, but also I want to hear what you have to say about all the shit I said. I had some constructive criticism, some feedback. Let me know what you think about some of that stuff. Let me know what you think about my weird answers for stuff. It's a good conversation, so hit me up. I'm also on Instagram if you guys ever want to yell at me. That'll all be linked in the description down below. But thank you guys for just hanging out and chatting with me for a while. I know these videos are longer. Thank you for that. Thank you for the sponsor and everything. Thank you to YouTube membership people and Patreon backers for this. I have fun yapping, talking about what I love, so I'm glad you guys are here. See you in the next one. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.